Autolytic debridement. Now, if you're like me, I really never understood autolytic debridement, and I'll be the first one to admit it. As I've gone through school, and I never really knew what autolytic debridement. I heard about it, but I never understood it. It wasn't until a few years ago that I really realized the power and the importance of autolytic debridement. And the definition is the process by which the wound bed utilizes phagocytic cells and proteolytic enzymes to remove debris. And this is accomplished by judicious use of certain type of occlusive or semi-occlusive dressings that create a moist environment, allowing our body to debride and remove whatever is necessary. And here's an example of autolytic debridement, selective. It knows what to remove, it knows what to leave. And there was a study that I just chose that was published fairly about 20 years ago. There aren't that many articles and evidence to support autolytic debridement. This was one that showed that autolytic debridement was better than placebo. And if we look at Cochrane database, we look at them and say, well, what did they say about debridement? And it's very interesting to review literature on the evidence and to find out that surgical debridement showed no significant benefit over standard debridement according to Cochrane review. Other methods, such as enzyme preparations, have not been evaluated in DFUs, and more research is needed to evaluate the effects and range of widely used debridement methods per se. So what does that mean? What that means is that at present time, there's no definitive evidence that suggests that one method of debridement is superior to another. There's no prospective data to show that one is better. We have some retrospective analysis, but none prospective. While the rationale for using surgical debridement to remove devitalized necrotic tissue and expose healthier tissue seems logical, the evidence for its role in healing is lacking. So that brings us to wound care challenges. What kind of challenges are we faced with when we're dealing with chronic wounds? Well, we know that the wound is non-homogeneous. And it's dynamic. It can change from one day to the next, definitely from 1 week to the next. It can go from good to bad, from bad to good, and can bounce back and forth. Okay? And each wound is unique in its presentation. So when we look at surgical debridement, these are just 3 cases that I've had over the last couple of years, and I thought these were good examples of difficult to heal wounds. You have slough, you have biofilm, you have chronic exudate, and no matter how many times these patients get surgically debrided, they continue to form the same type of base that you see here. And for many years, I just kept wondering, why aren't these patients getting better? Some of them get better, but some of them don't. And maybe it's because debridement is a continuous process. And maybe this is the paradigm shift that we need to start thinking about. That we don't only debride once a week when we see these patients in our clinics and our office. The debridement occurs throughout the continuum, 24/7, every day of the week. And we need to promote that debridement by various means. So how do we accomplish this debridement? How do we go from this wound to this wound, 4 days later, 11 days later, and eventually heal? How is this accomplished without ever touching this patient with a surgical means? Okay? This patient has had a wound for over 1.5 years, immunosuppressed, renal transplant, very painful, had multiple surgical debridements, has gone to the OR multiple times, and yet continues to form this slough. Okay? And this was the eye-opening experience that I had. And this is when I realized that this is the power of autolytic debridement. If you can create a moist environment, or let's say not necessarily a moist environment, an appropriate environment for different parts of the wound, absorb exudate certain parts of the wound, deliver moisture to certain drier parts of the wound, and find the appropriate dressing that can accomplish that, then it's even more powerful in certain cases than surgical debridement. Here's another case, a same type of wound. Whether you call this biofilm, whether you call this bioburden, whatever it is, it certainly does not look good. And no matter how many times this patient got surgically debrided in the operating room, and no matter how many compression dressings she has had, and she's been fairly compliant, a year later she's back to the same wound. Day 2, day 21, accomplished by only autolytic debridement.